guest. Right, okay. Number 3, this might be my favourite of yours because, and I'll tell you why, I read it and then the very next day I was in a school and I saw a brilliant example of this and I thought, whoa, Peps will be going mad if he saw this. So this is Interruptions Leave a Wake. Can you just tell us a bit about this? I think this is brilliant, this.
Yeah, so I think the stimulus for this kind of like concept, interruptions leave awakes, it comes from a study done by Matt Kraft and some of his colleagues in the US a couple of years ago, where they basically looked at a lot of high school classes and they just made like kind of gathered survey data on the number of interruptions and they kind of like analysed the amount of learning time that was lost. And they kind of found out that it was pretty significant. It added up to something like, I think it was like 20 days a school year lost learning time to interruptions and disruptions. And, you know, when I first saw this, I thought, hey, that's crazy. That's way too much. It wouldn't happen in my school. It wouldn't happen in England. But when you kind of dig into it a little bit, it turns out that it's not just the time lost to the interruption itself. So, for example, when somebody, student comes to the door and says, "Oh, Mr. Barton, can I talk to this student or pass you this note or whatever it is?" Like that might only take 20 seconds because you're a very efficient teacher, Craig. You'd be like, "Yeah, show me the note, get out of here, right, back on track." However, when that happens, students might be in the middle of a discussion or practice task where they're kind of holding a number of balls in the air, as it were, and all those balls will drop. When that happens, they might then pay attention to something completely different as a result of dropping the balls, because your brain needs to kind of allocate attention somewhere. And then when you do get them back on track, it might take like a little bit of time for them to get those balls back up in the air. Oh, what was I thinking about? What point was I at? All that kind of stuff. And so as a result, the kind of learning time lost to the interruption isn't just the 30 seconds, but it could be, 4 or 5 times that. It could be, a couple of minutes. And when you add all that up, then you can start to see how these things could potentially add up to, 20 days a year.
It's bad, isn't it? So I've got a personal anecdote about this, and then, as I said, this school-based one. So I love a bit of Cal Newport. I love particularly his deep work book, and he talks about the kind of cost of switching task. And I'm terrible at this, Peps, right? So I'll be doing a writing, like I'll be writing one of my newsletters or drafting a chapter in a book or whatever. And I'll just think, oh, I've done a good paragraph. I'll just have a cheeky little look at my email or something like this. And email's terrible for it, or Twitter's terrible for it. You have a little look at that and you're only gone for 5 or 10 seconds. But then I can feel myself having to ease back into the writing. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes or something like this. This task switching is really, really bad. And I'm a big deep work advocate. So again, you can get all the apps that turn off all the different tabs and stuff on the internet. But I need stuff like that because I'm terrible for that. So that's my personal anecdote. But then, so I read your evidence snack on this, and I was in school the next day. And it's really good, right? The head in this school, he's brilliant. He's one of those heads who is really present. He's not one of these who just sits in his office and you never see him. He's all around the corridors, knows all the kids' names, blah, blah, blah. But what he loves doing, just popping his head into the door, just seeing if everything's going all right in lessons. So I was in this maths lesson, did it twice. Pops his head in. "Hey, miss, just checking everything's all right. Is everybody on task?" Yeah. And he closes the door. First time he did it, it was midway in halfway through a worked example. So the teacher had him by the palm of her hands, these kids. He sticks his head in, right? Yeah. And you can imagine, right? These were good kids, but 2 or 3 minutes to try and get them back on task. But then the other one didn't look as bad. And it was only because I'd read yours that I thought, no, this is bad as well. Kids were working silently, sticks his head in. "Everything okay, everybody? Year 10? Oh, you're working really, really well." Back out he goes. And you could just see the kids, a few of the kids put their head up, a couple decided just to have a little chat with the person next to them, and it took a good 3 or 4 minutes to get it back. So sometimes these interruptions, they're done for the best of intentions, right? But they can have these unintended consequences. And I think this is rife in school, this idea of just kind of sticking your head in the door, and it's potentially problematic. What do you reckon, Peps?
Absolutely. And it's not only people sticking their head in the door, it's not, I think it's easy to conceptualize interruptions as being external. Yep. But I, certainly from my own experience, I've been just as guilty of interrupting as a teacher myself. So, I'd set my students off for a practice task. Yeah. And then, all within 30 seconds, I'd be wandering around saying, "Oh, this is, have a look over there. There's somebody doing a great thing. Remember everyone to do this." And I'm just constantly interrupting. And so, when I was teaching, I had to work really hard to kind of zip it, to shut up and remove myself from the environment and only intervene when necessary, rather than over narrating.
It's good, isn't it? I want to get a tattoo. I know you've got a few tattoos, but I'm not brave enough to get a tattoo. But I remember about 5 years ago, I thought if I was going to get a tattoo, it'd say "Memory is the residue of thought," because that was always my big thing. Now, if I was to get one tomorrow, it's going to say that interruptions leave a wake. I think that's a good kind of mantra for everyone just to bear in mind. I like it. So maybe
I would like to see that.
I think I'll get
Greg.
one. Yeah, I'll get one. Yeah. I'd say I'll probably be the first person ever to get one saying that. But surely that would get me some kind of premium thing on your snacks if I got the tattoo. Yeah, okay. All right.
I'll give you an infographic for that one.
That'd be great. Right, okay.